Good evening and welcome to All Things Sky Blue FA Cup game preview with Wolves on Saturday, 12:15 kickoff at Molineux. Really looking forward to this one. But before we get our guests on, just remember where you can find us on X or Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Please go and like and subscribe. There's some good content on there. We're also on podcasts, so Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, wherever else you get your podcasts from. If you do go on the podcast and you do listen to us rather than watch us, please go and rate us 5 stars as well. We're sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications. His logo's in the corner. He can do your steel fabrication up and down the country, but mainly in the Coventry and Warwickshire area. And we've also partnered with Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena. So joining me as always is Mark. Good evening, Mark. You okay?
Yes. Hi, Stuart. Yeah. Good evening. Evening, everyone.
Good. And we're also joined by Harry from Wolves 77 Club. Good evening, Harry.
Good evening, Stuart. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure. So, FA Cup. Are you excited, Harry?
I'd say I'm more nervous, to be honest. I think the pressure is on us. Let's be honest. Obviously, we're the favourites, and that doesn't tend to suit Wolves. So nervous is probably more the word.
Wow. Okay. So before we do get into our both routes, if you like, to the quarterfinals, can you just let us know what you guys do and where we can find you?
Yeah, we're just called the Wolves 77 Club. We're a podcast. It's been going since about 2017 now. And the Wolves 77 Club on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, at 77 Club Podcast on Twitter, on Spotify and all that good stuff. Yeah, really enjoy it. We did a podcast Monday, so if you want to hear our perspective from me and the other lads about this game, it's on there on YouTube. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right. So Wolves versus Coventry then, 12:15 kickoff on Saturday at Molineux. So the last time we played each other was back in 2014, I believe. It was down to a 1-1 draw. And if you look at the recent history, if you look at the history between the two clubs, there's never, ever been much in it. I think the past 5 games, there's been 3 draws and both of us have taken a win off each other. And I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but unfortunately, it's been the home side that's won. Obviously, you mentioned at the start, Harry, that you're a little bit nervous. Why are you nervous? Is it due to the injuries, or is it just the fact that I know you got beat by Ipswich, so you have been beaten by a Championship club. What are you nervous about?
Yeah, it is the injuries, but also Wolves this season have struggled at home against teams we're expected to beat. It's been a bit of a theme since we've been promoted, to be honest. These last 5 or 6 years we've been back in the Premier League. We find it hard to break teams down that play that low block. But yeah, injuries really concerning. Like no Neto, Cunha might be on the bench, who's just coming back from a hamstring injury. No Hwang. And Bellegarde went off injured last game too. So and it's just one of those where our main assets up front are all missing, and we're playing a 19-year-old Nathan Fraser up front who started against Fulham the weekend, and that's who we've got to rely on now because we've got a bit of a small squad. And yeah, and obviously I know for you guys it's going to be a huge game. You've sold a lot of tickets in the away allocation. And like Sheffield United recently, we were big favourites for that game. We only won 1-0. And if you watch the game back, Sheffield United deserved something from the game. So yeah, very nervous with us being heavy favourites, to be honest. And like I said to you before we come on air, I haven't watched much of the Championship or much of Coventry, really. I watched it the other week against West Brom, the game you lost in. But I know you're quite a well-organised team and you're doing quite well in the Championship. So it does worry me. Although we should win on paper with the injuries and things like that, I am very worried about this game, I can't lie.
Okay, fair enough. Mark, how are you feeling about the game on Saturday?
I'm quite relaxed, to be honest. I think it's quite nice not to be the favourites for a change because it's the first tie we've had where we're the underdogs. If you look at our route to where we got to, we've been playing sides Even Sheffield Wednesday was a game you expect to win. So yeah, I'm quite relaxed about the game. I think we've got nothing to lose. If we lose the game, we've got important games in the league that we need to focus on and try and get back to the Premier League and get into the playoffs. If we win, massive carrot playing at Wembley, or obviously not, we haven't played it since last year. So it'd be nice to go back to Wembley again, and hopefully this time we can get a win. But that's going to be, if we get past Wolves, you're likely to be playing City or Liverpool, which I don't think any of us would really want. But yeah, I mean, I think I've got nothing to lose in general. I think it's a game to be excited about as a Coventry fan. We've got a big following, and just go for it. Really, I'm really looking forward to it. Absolutely nothing to lose.
Yeah, definitely. We've got somebody that's nervous, and we've got a Cov fan that's excited about it. So hopefully it doesn't go down to another penalty shootout. I don't want that. I'd rather it be finished in 90 minutes, if I'm honest. So let's look at your route to the quarterfinals then, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Round 3 against the Premiership side Brentford. You had an early red card for João Gomez in the 9th minute. Do you think that kind of maybe stifled you a little bit in getting the win and seeing it over that first one rather than taking it to a replay?
Yeah, that was a terrible start to that game. I remember that. It was a bad tackle, definitely a red card. But I'll be honest, after half time, even with 10 men, we actually dominated the game. We did go 1-0 down just before half time, but we were the much better team for the rest of it, and we more than deserved our equaliser on the day, which was a cracking equaliser by Tommy Doyle. And we could have won it, but obviously, as you say, it went to a replay. And at that point, when it went to a replay, we didn't know that we'd have West Brom coming up. But as soon as that draw come out, it made that replay absolutely huge. So yeah, we deserved to win at their place, but as you know, we had to go and get the business done at home in the replay to get through.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned the replay there. That was a 3-2 after extra time win with a winning penalty via Kuna. Obviously, you've already mentioned that he may be missing. There is footage of him messing around a little bit though on Twitter that might sort of maybe make an inkling that he might be okay. He might be on the bench. What are your feelings about Kuna?
Yeah. So the original thought was he'd be back for the Villa game on the 30th of March, but there's rumours going around that he's progressed really well with his hamstring injury and he could be on the bench for the Coventry game. So I don't think they'll risk starting him. But because we're so light up front, as I mentioned earlier, he probably will be on the bench if he's available to be, and hopefully he can come on and make an impact. And that winning penalty was huge. He's been huge in our run, really. He got a goal at West Brom as well. And yeah, he's been fantastic. He's been one of our best players this season, so it'd be absolutely huge for our fan base. Like, it'd give us a bit of a boost if he is named on the bench, that's for sure.
Yeah, I play FPL, and he's been one of the names, and has been a differential for me in my fantasy team, and I think he's a great player. So hopefully he doesn't start and he doesn't come on. That would be that would be lovely. But yeah, so going back to the replay. I know you've already mentioned West Brom being the next draw. Did that give it the added spice that it needed?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the first leg against Brentford when we drew 1-1, because we were still thinking we've got to survive in the Premier League at that point. Although we were doing well, not many people were that bothered about the tie, to be honest. But as soon as that draw come out, it became a huge game in the replay. When we only just got through on the day, we struggled a bit. We mixed the team up a little bit. And then, yeah, when we got West Brom, because, I mean, I'm sure you know, we've had such a torrid history in the last 20, 30 years against West Brom. They've always had the better of us. So when we last played them in lockdown, we were the better team, but they still beat us 3-2 at Molineux, and we never heard the end of it. So it was nice to finally get it was nice to finally get one over them. But the first 30 minutes, West Brom were the better team. And then we just didn't really get out of second gear, and we just kind of cruised to victory. I think the golfing class show, but I'll be honest, I was really nervous after that first half an hour. But thankfully, we did get the job done. Neto and Cunha are obviously really good players, class Premier League players, got us over the line. But that was a very nervy game. It was just one of them where you just win and move on and get the bragging rights.
Yeah, I did see a little bit of the of your stats and stuff that I've looked at, and West Brom had more possession, 52 to 48. They had more shots overall, 12 shots to your 8. You had 4 each on target, so I just think that shows, you know, it doesn't matter how much possession you have, and it doesn't matter how many shots you have. It's how clinical you are to finish it off. And when you, like you said, when you've got Kuna and Neto being as clinical as they are, I think it helps you, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the difference on the day. Like you said, West Brom had 4 shots on target, but didn't really feel that threatened, if I'm honest. I remember they had a couple of soft headers, but we were frightened on the counter-attack for that first goal with Neto. That's what we do best. When we're away from home, we just defend our box, break with pace, Cunha, Neto, Bellegarde, Hwang when he was fit. I don't think he was fit around that time. He was at the Asia Cup. But that's our main strength, is counter-attacking on teams. And we just saw the game out. And obviously, there's all the trouble. The game stopped for about 40 minutes because of the trouble in the stands. Yeah, it all kicked off. But we deserved the win. And I'll be honest, they couldn't handle it. That's why they all started kicking off.
There was, I think there was some home fans in the away end or vice versa as well, which didn't help that situation whatsoever. Really. Before we move on to Brighton, any questions, Mark, for Harry?
Not as yet. No.
Not yet. Okay. So Brighton then in the 5th round, 1-0. Again, Brighton had more possession, a lot more possession. They had 72 to 28. They had 18 shots to your 9, and you both had 2 on target. But again, it just shows how clinical you are. But again, against another Premiership side and a good Premiership side as well. But, you know, again, I follow the Premiership, so I know how hit and miss Brighton can be. What did you think about going into that game?
Again, they were probably the favourites. They absolutely battered us at Molineux in the Premier League at the beginning of the season, 4-1. We drew 0-0 at their place, but they played us off the park, really. We had a few good chances, but they're so good with the ball. But they were going into it with a few injuries. And then just before the game kicked off, weirdly, the FA Cup draw was made, wasn't it? And no disrespect to you guys, but when the crowd heard we could potentially have Coventry next round, everyone's thinking, oh my God, like this is a huge opportunity to get to Wembley. And Gary O'Neill named a really changed team. Like he made a lot of changes and played a lot of the fringe players. So people were a bit like, oh, we're going to miss an opportunity here. But we scored after 2 minutes. And basically for 88 minutes, we just held on. It was like just holding on for dear life. And it was the longest game of football I've ever watched because it was just nail-biting stuff. Honestly, nail-biting stuff. They must have had, I bet you got the stats there. They had God knows how much possession, but they were just passing it around into the box, trying to get through. And at the end, their goalkeeper was up in the box and he had like a chance from 6 yards out and put it wide. But yeah, and it was really good atmosphere actually, because obviously the added incentive of having you guys in the next round. It was the best on paper. It was the best draw for us, wasn't it? Getting you at home. If you look at the teams that were left, so yeah, we scraped through. It's what we do under Gary O'Neill. They've got such fight in them, the players, even when we're up against it with injuries and things like that. And we got over the line somehow. But it was a really good atmosphere, one of the better atmospheres that Molineux this year, and it wasn't even a sellout, ironically. So yeah, really good game.
Yeah, obviously we will come on to Gary O'Neill in a minute as well. But Mark, Harry's just mentioned that having us as the next round, that you know that they have an opportunity to progress. But the route that we've had as well, you know, that's been quite a good route for us, hasn't it? Obviously, we'll go through that shortly anyway, but you know, we've had Oxford, we've had Sheffield Wednesday, we've had Maidstone, and now we've got Wolves. It's a real opportunity for us also, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the draw's been pretty kind to us really up until this point. We've had some playing teams that you'd probably expect to beat, as I said earlier. I think Oxford at home was a comfortable win, plenty of goals, and then Sheffield Wednesday, the first game was a pretty drab 1-1 draw. We probably should have won if some of our players had their shooting boots on, but we did the business in the second leg, and then Maidstone we did a thoroughly professional performance. A sort of game where the whole country, other than us Cov fans, wanted Maidstone to win. So when that happens, you've got to turn up, you've got to do the business and kill the game off early. So once we did that, then it was quite an easy game in the end. So I was pleased by the application and professionalism of the players in the games, and I think to this point have done really well. But obviously this is our first big test, and Harry's right to say that Wolves will be excited about playing us because obviously we're the lowest ranked team in the competition. So it's understandable, but I think for both clubs, I think from our point of view, I was quite happy to get Wolves. Not necessarily because I think obviously we can beat Wolves, but I think we've got more chance of beating the Wolves than if we were drawing a Man City or Liverpool. So, I was quite happy with the draw. Who was going to get was going to be a difficult draw. I mean, even we got Leicester, we could have got Leicester obviously, which would have been an even bigger derby than Wolves. So I think overall I'm happy where we are. And as I said earlier, I think we're going into the game, nothing to lose. Plus we've got the added fact that there's no games, next week with the international break. So, and that's obviously for both sides. So I think I would like to see Robins go with his strongest side and just give it everything, really. That's all you can ask for. But Wolves, I did see the game against Brighton, and the one thing I will say at Wolves is they did defend very, very well that game. Yes, they did have a few nervy moments, but overall, I thought Wolves looks really good defensively, and it looks a difficult side to break down. And Brighton, for me, are a really good Premier League side. So it's going to be a difficult game. I think it might just come down to who can get that first goal, because if Wolves can get the first goal, I think defensively they can be a difficult side to break down. So hopefully we can nick it, and anything can happen in football. So let's see.
Yeah, very true. Obviously, let's just go back a little bit back over them games in slightly a little bit more detail. So, the third round was a 6-2 victory over Oxford. You had a Casey Palmer absolutely stunning goal, which topped off a really comprehensive win. Was you happy that we got through Oxford relatively comfortably? We played a 4-4-1-1. In that game as well. We didn't play a back three like we did earlier in the season. Yeah. We've actually reverted back to that now as well. So, would you like to go back to a back four, or are you happy playing with a back three at the minute?
No, I'd like to go back to a back four personally for this game. I think we're a better side, and the performance against Oxford was a dominant performance. It's a performance that you expect to see. Having said that, as you know, Stuart, we've had a lot of round 3 games. We play low league opposition and we get knocked out. So, and I think it's about time that we had a cup run, because it's been too many years where we're losing to lower league opposition. So, and I think Robins has put more emphasis on the cup this season. I think with the sides he's put out, he wants his team give us the best possible chance of progressing. So, yeah, I thought it was a really good performance against Oxford.
Yeah, and obviously going into what was the third instalment, if you like, against Sheffield Wednesday, because obviously you played them twice in the league as well already. But we drew 1-1, and he actually reverted to a back three in that game and played a 3-4-1-2. So I think that, for me, that kind of shows that we are better playing as a four. But again, Victor Torp, on his debut, stepped up with a wonder goal as well, didn't he? How do you think he performed on his debut?
Yeah, he did really well. He was a little bit slow to start with, but he just got better as the game went on. And the strike he scored with the goal was sublime. It just moved in the air a bit. And in fairness, I know Sheffield Wednesday had a young keeper in goal, but I think a lot of keepers would have struggled to save that. I thought it was just a really good strike. And he had a really good, really promising debut. And he's been a good signing overall. So. Yeah, I thought he played really well for us.
Cool, brilliant. And obviously the replay brought us back home and played them again for the last instalment of the 4 games that we played with them. Again, we reverted back to a back four, played a 4-2-3-1, and we won it quite convincingly, a 4-1 victory. I think there was a few ropey moments, if I remember, but nothing really to write home about, was there?
It was quite a comfortable win. I think they did equalise, didn't they? But I think once we got ahead, it was a pretty easy win, which was good. So I think looking back, I don't think we were playing that well, but then we needed a good performance. So it was a nice win, and I must admit, we'll go on to Maidstone in a minute, but when we got drawn Maidstone, I was like, oh no, because I really don't like playing non-league sides. And looking at what happened with Ipswich, is thinking, oh, I don't want it to be us. I'm sick and tired of losing to non-league sides. We lost to Sus in the past. We lost to Wrexham last season.
Wrexham obviously is the closest.
Yeah, we lost to Worcester City when we were in our League One days. You think, oh, you really. It's a sort of game that people expect you to win. I know Harry's probably sitting there thinking that's where Wolves are right now, but that's the where we were in the base game. I hate home games because the whole world is why I want the opposition to win, and you feel like, well, if you beat them 5-0 like we did, then well, who cares? It's Maidstone. No one really makes a thing of it. But what we did do was put in a really good performance. I think the players deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, obviously, just off air, Harry mentioned about Ellis Sims, and he scored a hat-trick against Maidstone. Tavares with 2 goals. Ellis Sims has now scored 2 hat-tricks in 3 games, I think it is. So, he's showing a little bit of form. Ellis Sims, look, you kind of, it was an early-ish goal, wasn't it? I think against Maidstone, and he did quite well, didn't he?
He took his goals really well, Stuart. His composure was really good. I think my criticism of Ellis Sims is sometimes he kind of rushes. He rushes his shot, and he snatches at his chance a little bit for me. But in this particular game, he showed his class. He took his goals really well, and obviously took that into his next performance at the CBS with a hat-trick again against Rotherham. So he goes into the game with confidence, but I think his all-round game is looking good. He's looking a bit more confident. He's looking good with his back to goal. Possibly just needs to build a bit more of an understanding of Haji Wright, but I think that'll come. So I think all in all, I think there's a lot more pluses and minuses with Ellis.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you mentioned a minute ago about you were kind of happy about having Wolves in the next round. I think for me, obviously, again, no disrespect to Wolves. I know how good they are. Like I mentioned already about Kuna and Neto and people like that. And, defensively, you're quite sound. I would have liked a Liverpool or a Man City. I understand your reasoning, Mark, for not wanting them. But for me, seeing them at the CBS Arena would have been really, really good for me. Anyway, but yeah, so on to Wolves. We did draw Wolves. We've obviously mentioned Neto being injured, Balgard, Huang, Kuna. He might be on the bench. Is Dawson still out? Because he's been quite a rock for you at the back, hasn't he?
Yeah, he'll be back. He had a bit of a knock, I think, the Newcastle game. No, he come back for the Newcastle game, sorry. There was the game before that, Santi Bueno played. But Santi Bueno, who comes in for him whenever Dawson's out, he's had so much praise off the Wolves fans. He had a bit of a nightmare debut and we lost 3-2 to Ipswich in the Carabao Cup. But since then, he hasn't really put a foot wrong. And I think he'll start against you guys. I think Dawson might be on the bench. So, which just says how well Santi Bueno has actually done. But yeah, Dawson's been absolutely incredible. When we brought him in last January, he pretty much kept us up under Lopetegui. But him and Lamina were 2 signings that were just the steal, basically, in midfield and defence. And his experience obviously shows a lot, and really good player, obviously getting on a bit now, but a very solid old school defender, and 8 out of 10 most games. But we might not see him against you guys, which is something I didn't think I'd be saying a month or so ago, to be honest.
Yeah, look, obviously we mentioned Gary O'Neill briefly a minute ago, but what a job he's done for you. Did you, at the start of the season when Gary O'Neill first come in, was you one of the ones that were happy that he came in, or was you a bit more, let's see what happens?
I was unhappy. I was underwhelmed. I was still gutted that Lopetegui had left, to be honest, all that mess that happened. But he came in. Obviously, he'd done a decent job at Bournemouth, but I thought, well, why have they sacked him? I couldn't really work that out. But his first few interviews were really good. And then we went away to United, lost 1-0, but played really well. And I was a bit like, let's give him a chance. Bit rocky around that Ipswich game in the Carabao Cup, and we drew 1-1 away with Luton. Honestly, it was awful. And there was a lot of Wolves fans at that point saying, I don't think this is going to work. But then we beat Man City 2-1 at home, and since that game, we haven't really looked back. And he's been brilliant. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we were tipped for relegation by most of the mainstream, and we're punching way above our weight because we've got a small squad. We sold a lot of players. Although our starting 11, when we've got no injuries, are fantastic. Like, they're not a team that should go down, but the small squad is a bit of a challenge, and that's what's catching up with us now. But yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant on Monday Night Football. He's brilliant tactically. He's brilliant with the media, and he's amazing with the fans as well. He's built up this really good connection with the fan base, and now I'm worried we're not going to keep hold of him. So I've gone from being not that happy he's coming in to thinking, oh my God, I hope we keep hold of him now. It's crazy what a few months can do.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, do you, looking at all your games that you've played a 3-4-2-1 formation, 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, 3-5-2. Do you see anything deviating from that because you're playing a championship side, if you like, or do you think you'll stick to your tried and tested?
So this is the struggle we have as a team at home against teams that are likely to sit back, who are favourites against. So we've always played 5 at the back most of the time in our Premier League reign. Nuno obviously was the one who brought it in. The majority of this season we've played 5 at the back, like a 5-2-3. We did start with a 4-2-3-1 against Fulham, but because Bellegarde got injured, we ended up going back to a back 5. Eventually, Toti Gomez come back on. But I don't know. I don't know if he will play a 4. He might because of injuries. He might go over 4 back against you Saturday. But yeah, our strength is the 5 at the back, soaking pressure and hitting teams on the counter-attack. Our weakness is when we've got the ball and we've got to try and break teams down. So it'd be interesting to see what he does. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, answers on a postcard with the starting lineup, no idea. With the injuries we've got, I mean, Ait-Nouri, who's our left wing back, who's absolutely brilliant, by the way. One for your FPL, if you were talking about FPL.
No, I try and get him in.
Brilliant.
I do.
Yeah, I've got him. I've had him most of the season, but he probably will play in the Pedro Neto role. He's that good on the ball. He'll probably play he switched to right wing against Fulham of the front 3, and he's obviously meant to be a left back, but he's so good on the ball and so technically gifted. He got a goal. He nearly set up Lamina, and he was just unbelievable. So we might see him up there, but it's anyone's guess what the team will be.
Yeah, well, you've got Sarabia as well, haven't you? He got a goal for me the other day in FPL. So you've still got some talented boys in that game and on that pitch. Mark, going to, Coventry's formation.
Georgia.
We've had most our success playing a 4-3-3, if you like, or however you want to say it. But he's not, he is a stubborn manager, isn't he? And his kind of recent league games reverted back to a back 3 or a back 5. I know you said that you want to see a back 4. Do you see any changes happening with maybe personnel rather than formation?
I think Ben Wilson will start and goal instead of Brad Collins. I think he's stuck with Ben Wilson, isn't he, in the cup run? So I think that's probably one change you'd make. I'm not really in favour of that. I think you need your best keeper, and in my opinion, that's Collins. He's our best keeper. So, but I think Robbins will be stubborn, as you mentioned, and I think he'll go with Ben Wilson. So I think that's one change you'll make. I think I'd like to see Callum O'Hare start and Ben Sheaf. I think Ben Sheaf will come into the team because obviously he came on for the Watford game, and he looked. I thought when he came on, we looked a better side second half when he was on. So I think for Wolves, we need our best players available. So and starting. So for me, I would go. I'm giving you the team that I would go for personally. I would go Collins in goal, but I know it's going to be Wilson. But let's pretend I'm Mark Robbins. So I'm going to go Collins, MVE. I'm going to go Thomas and Kitchen and Bidwell as my back 4.
Okay.
I'm going to play midfield 3 with Sheaf, Eccles and Latty. And then I'm going to go... This is the interesting one. So I would go with O'Hare and possibly a Wright and it's Sims combination up front. I think that both have got to come into the team. might be slightly harsh on Palmer, but I think I just put him on the bench and maybe bring him second half if we need if we're trading and we need to affect the result. But that's the way I would go personally. I think Robbins on the other end will go 5 at the back. I think he'll go completely different to what I just said. I think he'll keep a similar sort of shape. I think, and I think as Harry mentioned earlier, I think the tactics I think will probably players will try and sit in and try and nick a goal. I don't agree with that personally because I think that plays into Wolves' hands. And I think for me, it's about how we start the game. It's trying to make life difficult for Wolves. Really, try and get in their faces a bit. That's what I'd like to see. But I think the first goal could be crucial because from what I saw of Wolves in the Brighton game, they got the goal, and I thought defensively they were superb. So I think that's something we've got to be on. We've got to get that first goal, and I think then Wolves are under pressure. And as Harry mentioned earlier, that's pressure could do funny things. It's all ifs and buts, and hopefully we can get that first goal.
Yeah, obviously against Leeds in the league, Mark Robbins went to a midfield 5, didn't he? And just crowded that midfield area out and kind of not sat back as such, but he just soaked up the pressure. We got a goal by Bobby Thomas to draw that game at Ellen Road, which is a difficult place to go anyway, but is not one for changing things tactically. Obviously, we may be missing Torp. We don't know. We still don't know how bad his injury is as well. Obviously, Sakamoto's still out with back issues. Obviously, with that horrific pounding that he took to the ground. She's back, as you've mentioned, but I don't. Apart from that, I think everybody else is relatively fully fit, aren't they? So there's no reason why he won't go full strength, is there?
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, as I said earlier, we've got a break after this week, and we'll be absolutely foolish. I mean, this is a great opportunity to play a team that have still got a good sidewalks, of course, but are under strength. So it's an opportunity to try and pull off a shock. It's about time that we're the ones who pull off the shock, and we're not the ones receiving the shock, kind of thing, like we used to. So
yeah,
that would be nice. I think the crowd will be a factor. I think nearly 5,000 travelling fans is great. I think it'll add to the atmosphere. I think it'll be a real cup-tie atmosphere, and also a local derby as well. Not a black country derby like with Albion, but it's still a big derby, and it'll be a great opportunity to win. So let's just go for it.
Definitely, totally agree. Harry, just briefly, what are your expectations for the league? Where do you think you'll finish in the league first?
About where we are now, it'd be nice. I'd love to say 7th or 8th, but I think because I've mentioned with the small squad and the injuries, that's a tough ask. So I'd say about 9th, 10th. I'll go for 9th. I'll be positive. I'll say we'll finish 9th. That's the expectations. God, I can't believe I'm even saying that, to be honest. Like I said at the beginning of the season, we were tipped to go down, but yeah, I'll go with 9th. If I had to put my neck on the line for it to guess.
Okay, and expectations for the cup. Do you see? I'll go. I was gonna come to the predictions in a minute, but because I've asked your expectations, I'll ask for a prediction at the same time.
Yeah, look, obviously, no disrespect to Coventry, but I expect Wolves to at least get to the semi-final. And we've got, as Wolves fans, we have got a bit of PTSD of a semi-final. 5 years ago against Watford, we were 2-0 up till the 77th minute and somehow lost 3-2. In extra time, and then Watford, to make it worse, Watford got battered 6-0 against Man City in the final, and we did the double over Man City that year under Nuno, so we'd have had a good chance probably. But yeah, expectations are at least semi-final, but as you say, you go through and you're likely to get Liverpool or City. If obviously that's the most likely draws you'll probably end up with. So expectations, the FA Cup, I'd love to say win it, but I tell you what, I'll say my expectations, being confident, I'll say final. Predictions on the game, I think it's going to be more tight than the bookies will think it's going to be, purely because of our injuries, and obviously you guys are going to be well up for it. It all depends on the atmosphere of Molineux as well. An early kickoff on a Saturday, although it is a derby, as you've mentioned. When Wolves are expected to win with the favourites, Molineux can be quite quiet sometimes. They get the Sheffield United game recently. But if we are struggling a bit and say you're 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go or something, we need to get back into it, you probably will hear the atmosphere get better. And we owe you one as well for beating Maidstone, because our boy George Elokobi manages them, and that really hurt the fan base. Yeah, that hurt the fan base that you did that. And also, like you mentioned, that it's a derby, but it's not like a big rivalry, is it? Like massive. But as a kid, you did break my heart because you took my favourite ever player off Wolves, which was Robbie Keane. You took him off us when I was a kid, and I absolutely despise Coventry because of that. So, but personally for me, I hope we beat you to get a bit of revenge because you took one of my favourite players ever, although you only stayed with us for about a year. I hope we do you for that reason as well.
Okay, fair enough. To be fair, Robbie Keane's one of my all-time favourite City Cov players. Absolutely superb, and it's a shame that we really only had him for a year as well, because he went on to Inter Milan then. So, but yeah, brilliant, absolutely superb player. Loved him, and I was there for his debut, and he was such a good player. Mark, can I get expectations from you and a prediction from you for Cov?
Nothing to lose. Just enjoy it, really. I mean, test yourself, play against better players. I think that's a good thing. That you can use experience of playing as a Premier League side for the forthcoming fixtures in the league. It could be a tough game, obviously, but we've got a chance. Wolves have got players injured. You just got to go out there, believe in it. If you don't believe, then there's no point in turning up. If you can't get up for a derby, for a potential carrot of playing at Wembley in the semi-final, then you're not in the right job, because this is a massive game of football. I'm going to be optimistic. I know I usually sit on the fence, but as I said, I'm going to say we're going to win 2-1 on it in extra time. Obviously Wolves are favourites, but I might be going with my heart rather than my head. But we've just got to go for it, and I think if we do that and give our best shot, if we lose, then fair enough. But we just got to give it everything. I think we can't sort of just defend for 90 minutes, because we'll just get absolutely walloped. We've just got to go for it. If we get chances, we've got to be fearless. Don't fear Wolves; they're a good side, but don't fear them. With the great respect to Wolves, it could be worse. It could be playing Liverpool City. If we were playing Liverpool City, I'd be like, I don't even know why we're turning up, really, because we'd probably get battered. So,
well, look, we've gone away from home before to United and other places like that, and we've got results. So there's no reason why we can't get a result on Saturday. Any threats? Again, I don't know how much you follow the Championship and things like that, Harry, but do you see any threats from us? Obviously, we've mentioned Ellis Sims already. Is there anybody else that you've got your eye on that you're worried about?
Like I said, I haven't watched him much, so Ellis Sims is probably the only one I could say. But if I'm not talking about individual players, I know Mark mentioned that you want Coventry just to go for it and things like that. But my worry is, if you do sit back and play the low block and we can't get through past you early, that could really frustrate us. And if you nick a goal and you defend for your lives and we can't break you down, that's our weakness. But at the same time, as Mark mentioned too, if we get an early goal, it probably will be quite tough for you lot to then break us down, because we are so. I think there was a stat going around recently in the whole of Europe. Our stats just in terms of defending the box, just the 18-yard box, like stopping crosses and things like that, we're like first or second in Europe, like for that sort of stuff. So it's one of those. So, but if we had all our players available, Hwang, Cunha, Neto, everyone, I'll be honest, no disrespect, but I think we'd absolutely wipe the floor with you.
I'd be a little bit worried. I'd be a little bit more worried than I am now, to be fair.
Because I think one of the lads said on our podcast that, like, I know you're not mid to you're like 7th, 8th in the Championship at the moment, Coventry, something like that.
Where are we? 8th, I think.
Yeah, the difference, like the West Brom game showed me the difference between like mid to like edge of playoffs and mid-table of the Premier League is so wide these days from what it used to be in terms of quality, in my opinion, anyway. So for that reason, obviously, that's even with injuries, we should win. But it's the FA Cup, it's a derby, anything can happen. So that's what's in the back of all Wolves fans' minds. So that, bit of a worry of that you'll defend quite well. But if you come at us and we get an early goal, as I say, I think it will be very tough for you lot to get back into it. But anything can happen. I think my prediction on our podcast, because I didn't say just the score, I don't think. I predicted a 2-2 in normal time and we'll do it in extra time. So I'm being very, I'm not very confident. I don't know why. I don't want to be too overconfident because I don't want to jinx it.
Okay, fair enough. Any questions, Mark, for Harry?
Just trying to think of any questions. No, nothing for me, no.
Nothing? Happy?
Yeah.
Okay then, so just before we finish off then, Harry, I always like to do a quick fire question with our guests. So just give us a one-worded answer or a couple of worded answer. You can say no comment to a couple of them if you want to. That's up to you.
Okay.
So the first one is Molyneux.
Legendary.
Okay. Gary O'Neill.
Manager of the season.
Okay. Now this one's a two-parter. Aston Villa.
Horrible club.
West Brom.
The worst club in history of mankind.
Okay. Favourite home chant.
Oh. Gary O'Neill's Barmy Army at the moment.
Okay, and the last one. The next player coming through that should we keep an eye out for?
I don't know. I think he's pretty much on the map now, but I'll say João Gomez. He's still young, but he's a superstar already. He's a superstar already, though, in our eyes, anyway. And I think big clubs are already looking at him. Fantastic player.
Cool. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for coming on, Harry. Thank you very much for joining, Mark, as always.
No problem.
Just before you go, Harry, can you just let us know once again where we can find you and what you guys do?
Yeah, the Wolf 77 Club on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Weekly podcast, me and 3 other lads. And we do pretty much what you do. Go over the games, review, preview. And we love it. And that's pretty much it, really. We're on social media and on the podcast.
Fantastic. When we finish recording, don't shoot off and we'll have a quick chat afterwards as well. All right.
No problem.
So just remember where you can find us, guys. Also on X, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Please go and like and subscribe to anything that we do on YouTube, on podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iTunes. Please rate us 5 stars. It's all appreciated. We do it for you guys out there. So as long as you guys are happy and you're liking what we do, then we'll carry on doing it. We love doing it. I know Mark does, and obviously Danny, Josh, and Glenn as well. We're sponsored by Right Still Fabrications, and we're partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena. So, one more time, thank you very much both for joining me. Good luck for the rest of the season, obviously apart from Saturday, Harry. And Mark, I'll see you at the game. Really looking forward to this one. It's going to be good. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.